The War of 1812. February 1815. The war thus far. After the debacle at New Orleans, the British retreated, but not because they'd given up. They're just trying to find another path to victory. 24 hours after leaving New Orleans, the British land at Dauphin Island in Mobile Bay. Their objective, Fort Bowyer, which they had attempted and failed to take in September 1814. Please see my September 1814 video. But on February 8th, they land a large body of troops, plus artillery, behind the fort, where it's vulnerable. Over the next 2 days, under heavy fire, the British manhandle their big guns into position. Then Major General John Lambert dispatches Captain Harry Smith under a flag of truce, I keep wanting to say truth, truce, to demand the Yanks surrender. In the words of historian D.R. Westhouse, quote, Colonel William Lawrence, commander of Fort Bowyer, considers his options and decided the fort was not up to the punishment it would take and the senseless loss of life that would result. End of quote. The 360 Americans surrendered the afternoon of February 11th, vacating the fort and grounding their arms on the 12th. The capture of Fort Bowyer cost the British 13 dead and 18 wounded. But on Valentine's Day, February 14th, a frigate arrives with news of the peace treaty. Then nothing happens as both sides await confirmation. And when that happens, the Yanks return to the fort and the Redcoats return to England. The last battle in the Chesapeake Theater, the Battle of the Ice Mound, takes place February 7th, when a tender from HMS Dauntless becomes icebound near Taylor Island. A large mound of ice allows local militia to fire on the tender, which surrenders after 2 hours, the militia taking 18 prisoners and capturing a carronade. Adding insult to injury, on February 14th, off the coast of South Carolina, 25 American sailors under Lieutenant Lawrence Kearny use a launch they captured from HMS Hebrus on January 30th. Again, please see my January 1815 video, to capture the tender of another British ship, HMS Severn. Kearny is rather an interesting guy whose later career took him to both China and Hawaii. Please see the link to his biography in the description. The Battle of the St. Mary's River, the last land battle between British and American land forces, takes place in Georgia on February 24th. Westhouse writes that the British wanted to link up with Colonel Edward Nicolls of the Royal Marines at Prospect Bluff on the Apalachicola River in Spanish Florida. Apalachicola. Try saying that fast several times. Apalachicola. Oh, you know what I mean. The British, 52 Marines, sailing up the river in 7 barges and a gig, were ambushed by local militia and patriots from, according to Westhouse, quote, the Spanish Florida incursions of 1812-13. All would have been lost for the British forces, but for the failure of the Americans to block the river with fallen trees and other debris. Casualties mounted as the British slowly pulled back during a running fight. With news of the ratification of the peace treaty, the British pulled away from the area in mid-March. End of quote. Of course, ships at sea know nothing of the peace treaties. On December 11th, 1814, the 44-gun USS Constitution sneaks out of Boston Harbor. On February 8th, its skipper, Captain Charles Stewart, learns of the peace treaty from a Russian brig while sailing off the coast of Spain. But as the treaty had not been ratified, and so the war was not really over, the hunt continues. At 1 p.m. on February 20th, about 180 miles northeast of Madeira, Constitution spots two strange ships and gives chase, the ships turning out to be HMS Cyane, 22 guns, and HMS Levant, 20 guns. At 6:10 p.m., Constitution caught up to the British vessels, and the fight was on. All three ships fired broadsides, but when British fire slowed, Captain Stewart ordered Constitution to cease fire as smoke was making it hard to see. But when the smoke cleared, Stewart fired a broadside into the nearest ship, Cyane, before attacking Levant, or something like that. After a half hour of this, Captain Gordon Thomas Falcon, what a great name for a ship's captain, Gordon Thomas Falcon, was forced to surrender Cyane, Captain Stewart sending an American crew to secure his prize. After making repairs, Levant returned to the fight, but by 9:30, Captain George Douglas was also compelled to surrender. Constitution will take her prizes to Porto Praya in the neutral Cape Verde Islands off the African coast. The butcher's bill, according to Westhouse: Constitution, 6 dead, 9 wounded. Cyane, 12 killed and 26 injured. Levant, 23 dead, 16 hurt. Finally, and staying at sea, on February 26, the American privateer Chasseur, Captain Thomas Boyle, spots the British schooner St. Lawrence under Lieutenant Henry C. Gordon, 36 miles from Havana. St. Lawrence had an interesting history, having been the privateer Atlas and having been captured by the British off North Carolina on July the 12th, 1813. Chasseur gives chase and at 12:30 p.m. raises her colors and fires at St. Lawrence, who is hobbled when her fore topmast breaks. Her fore topmast. At 1 p.m., she also raises her colors and begins firing her stern gun at Chasseur. The Americans think St. Lawrence easy pickings with a mere 3 guns, but as they draw alongside, the British ship opens fire with 10 port guns and lets the Yanks have it. Captain Boyle crashes Chasseur into St. Lawrence and yells for his men to board. And when they do, the British surrender. The short 15-minute fight cost the Americans 5 killed and 8 wounded, including Captain Boyle. The British 6 dead and 17 hurt. The captured St. Lawrence is taken to Havana, and when Chasseur returns to the States on April 15th, captain and crew learn the war is over. Thus, the signing of the Treaty of Ghent doesn't stop the fighting. But how long can it go on? Now that the war is over, how much longer? Well, stay tuned. My primary source for today's video is D.R. Westhouse's unpublished The War of 1812, a chronology of the military actions 1812 to 1815, but, as always, any errors are strictly my own. All other sources are listed in the description. I would have liked to have done more research for this video, but I'm about to have cataract surgery and I don't know how long I'll be away from the net. But stay subscribed, and why not check out some of the 60 plus, yes, you heard that right, 60 plus videos available on this channel. If this is your first visit to 1812 channel, my name is Warren and I'm your host. I'm not a historian, nor am I an expert on the War of 1812. Instead, I'm a student wishing to learn about the conflict. For each month of the roughly 3 years of the war, I will outline the major events. I will also review a book on the war, or at least try to, or at least think about it. Please consider subscribing. Let's start a community of people interested in discussing the War of 1812. Did I miss anything? Any errors? Then let me know in the comments below. And when my vision clears, or until my vision clears, cheers.